go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at it. You got to fight them on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RT jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook 'em weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.
Hello, welcome to the Roadshow on the Water Experience. I hope you all had a great Easter weekend. I know the weather hasn't been the best, but is it good or bad? I mean, we were getting our water back. We had some major droughts last year, so I'll take all the water we can get. And I know weather is on everybody's mind, but we want to bring you tips and tricks on how to catch fish, put more fish in your Lund boat or whatever boat you got. Hopefully it's a Lund. And anywhere in the Midwest, as the rivers are opening up, most of them are starting to open up, and lakes too. So thanks for coming in tonight. And before I bring on Sam, my co-host, I want to just congratulate last week's winners. Justin Hubin won, and also Nikki and Chris Hart. Congratulations on those prize package winnings that you got. And just to want to say I cheated a little bit. I know it's open water, but I went out and I did a little ice fishing. And it's really a sketchy deal because some lakes are not really good at all, and some lakes have 28, 25 inches of ice. The shorelines are going. Some of the old roads only have inches on them because of all the road salt. So you really only want to go if you know what you're doing and have safety equipment. But anyway, there's a lot of open water things coming, and it's going to get warm. Talking to friends out east, Detroit River is on fire. But before we get into it too much, hey, Brooke, could you bring in my co-host, Sam? How you doing, Sam?
Good. How are you, bro?
Hey, I'm having a great time. Just had some perch for lunch today, and I got to say, I don't remember. I've ice fished the opener, which was on the 7th quite a few years back, but I don't remember it being quite like this. And there is a chance that somewhere you could ice fish the opener of walleye. And I know some people are gagging right now, but come on. I know there's a bunch of you out there that absolutely love ice fishing. You walk on 2 inches of ice early. Where'd you all go? Did you disappear? Safety first, but large bodies of water are like a big refrigerator, and I think this is going to be good, but it's going to be interesting. It's happening really fast, and so Sam, we're still locked up here. How's the Rainy River sturgeon bite going? Because walleye fishing is closed there on the Canadian border, and it doesn't open till the 14th of May. So can you just tell us what's going on with the sturgeon bite, and then have you heard of any pike? Because pike are open up there, and that has monster pike in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was trying to get up there, but we had some cold weather over this Easter weekend here, so we opted to get some things done here at home so I can get ready and get out there once the ice does melt around here. But I have been hearing some fish are still getting caught up there. It's all right. I do hear that the water's a little bit dirty yet, which always seems to affect the bite a little bit negatively, but people are still getting up there and catching some really nice fish. I think the great thing about sturgeon is the first time I did it, I thought it was going to be like muskie fishing, that if you go up there and you get a chance at a 40-inch fish, it's an awesome day. But it's really more like walleye fishing. It's not uncommon to have multi-fish days. And if you get in the right hole, you can start cracking them one after another. I've seen a lot of doubles hooked up. It's crazy how busy it can get there. So yeah, you just got to be up there on the right day and the right hole. And it can be a day of a lifetime.
Now, it was a long time ago, actually. I talked to Al Linder about this close to 20 years ago. And I said, Al, what do you think about sturgeon? And his prediction to me was sturgeon is going to catch on like wildfire, because where can you catch giant fish like that with it doesn't matter like this. Look at
Mhm.
that's my personal best. That's a 62 incher, and I had to put the tail behind my back. And there's Heather's, and hers was just under 60 inches. And you see there, she's not smiling. She's grimacing because every muscle in her back hurts. But I was going to say, where can you just look at there's Mandy's?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little story about that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what these stories were. They're just some pictures I had easily in my phone. I think this one was last year, and the other one was a couple years ago. But yeah, it's just beautiful, beautiful days on the river, and it's really relaxed, easy fishing. You just anchor up, and it's a it's a blast. So
Well,
I'm
I
hoping I
noticed
can get up there.
that
We'll see.
photo.
My April schedule's looking pretty tight now, but I'm gonna try to sneak up there if I can.
Well, it looked like it was suntan weather there, and I
Yeah.
know it's cold, but the sun is beating down. And then I noticed, I seen Lauren Durr. You still have ice up there in Michigan. How much ice? Do you know? I'm just curious. You could just message that to us. I'm always curious what the situation is, and I know Gussie was on, and he said that some people had 40 inches of ice up there. But anyway, getting back to sturgeon. Before we go on any farther, because we got some more, Sam, people can win tonight.
Yep.
You're talking fishing. This is like being in a bait shop with bait shop kind of looking guys here, and we're talking fishing, but you can win. So how can they win, Sam?
Say no surprise, but we have another Northland prize pack for tonight. So make sure to like, comment your questions, and share the show, and that'll enter you in to win this Northland prize pack. We got 5 Rumble Shad baits, a Northland hat, and the Bro Roadshow mug. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show. And then also, right now, kind of a bonus, Northland is doing a huge walleye opener sweepstakes. So if you go on www.northlandtackle.com, there'll be a link there that you can click and sign up. And this is a $500 giveaway. We got some of our awesome deep V jigs, a bunch of the Rumble Series baits, some clothing and other swag. So really big giveaway we're doing for walleye opener. So head to our website and you can sign up for that as well.
Good gravy. I'm going to have to put my pods back in for that much tackle. That looks really awesome. One thing I want to bring up, and some of the viewers outside of the area probably don't know this, but Minnetonka near the Twin Cities opened up a couple of days ago. That's a large sprawling lake in near the Twin Cities. It's not downtown Minneapolis or anything, but it's near there. And typically there's 3 weeks or so right around that time, and Bemidji opens up afterwards. And so, I don't know if we're going to follow that schedule like normal, because, that's a different kind of deal this year, because there seems to be a line through the north end of the state, and it's just a freezer. But I'm hearing from my good buddy Joe, I think he's a buddy, sometimes he's Henri, out in Michigan, and he's cranky over there too, because they keep getting blasted, and it's not keeping ice kind of weather, it's drizzly rain, cold stuff. So, but anyway, Lauren said that they had 20 inches of ice up in the UP. But anyway, Sam, could you show us a sturgeon rig? Because there's people out there who have never fished them, and there's some who have. But everybody wants to know what your sturgeon rig looks like.
Yeah. So I run 2 different rigs. And the thing about sturgeon fishing, like I said, it's not like muskie fishing. I think the average person can go up on their first time trying it and have a pretty good shot at a decent fish or multiple fish. So I run 2 different rigs. Both just start off with a simple crane swivel here. That is tied to 80-pound braid. I just use 80-pound braid. Some people like to use heavier mono to keep the braid from twisting around. I have never had too many problems with the braid, so I just run it. So Palmer knot, and then a 12 to 18-inch leader, depending on the current. The more current you have, the shorter leader you want. The less current, you can get away with a little bit longer leader. And then on the back side, I run 2 different hook options. So, oh boy, mirror in action. Here is the one I usually run. So this is a Gamakatsu octopus circle hook. So you can see this is a true circle hook. That points inward. So with this circle hook, you actually don't want to set the hook at all. So when the fish bites it, that hook, it can go down the fish's mouth, and that hook can come through. And as it bends around the corner of the mouth, that's when that hook engages and hooks. So you're always going to hook them in the corner of the mouth, no matter how quick you go. Now, when I get a bite with that rig, I usually let the fish pull the rod tip down about a foot. That's how I determine it's a sturgeon or not. Because you get a lot of sucker pecks will feel like a sturgeon, but if you let that a foot and reel down on it hard, you usually get them hooked.
Here's what Sam was showing you, but now this is a 6/0. Here's a 5/0. I use 3 and 4. 4 is probably the most popular one. If they're big and they're wild and heavy current, I like a 5/0. And you see this; these are the straight eyes, so you could tie a straight knot. And sometimes I like them. I like to snell them, even no matter which one you get. I could snell this style hook, but that's the hook you want to use. Gamakatsu. It's the same one they use in saltwater for the big game, and they're a little bit pricier, but you're talking about something that's almost a third of the length of your boat, or maybe more. So
you're gonna spend more on worms than you do hooks, that's for sure. So the other rig I run is, I call it the Sturgeon Quick Strike rig. So this is actually a Gamakatsu finesse wide gap hook. Now you think of finesse and sturgeon, and it doesn't really go together, but that's, I think, a testament to the quality Gamakatsu has.
That's heavy duty. Here's one right here, pack of Valley Pack.
The finesse wide gaps, and like you said, 3 to 5/0 allows anglers. Some people, as soon as you get a bite, you can set the hook as hard as you want. I've still had really good conservation quality with these. I've never had a deep hooked fish with these wide gap hooks. You just got to set it a little bit quicker than the circle hook. And then for bait, I'm generally running a glob of crawlers on there. But one thing I found to help keep your crawlers on, because getting picked off by suckers is a big issue, is to run a piece of plastic. And I will actually take a full impulse night crawler, and after I put my crawlers on, I will just place that on as well. So you get a little bit of action and movement out of it, and it's going to hold your bait on, and it doesn't spook them away by any means. So really simple rig. Everyone can do it. And then Joe was talking, the no roll sinkers aren't necessary, but they're helpful. They don't get twisted around your line.
Right now with that heavy current, I would bring some. You got 6 ounces there.
Yeah, I got anywhere from 3 to 6 ounces. Usually that 4 or 5, you're good with the Rainey's current. But yeah, it's nice to have some bigger ones, because it's just like fishing a bottom bouncer or a jig. If
bottom contact.
Yeah, if it's, you got a lot of current, when you're sturgeon fishing, you kind of figure out where the hole is downstream. There's a sweet spot. So if you have too light of a weight, your line is going to keep on getting drawn out before it actually sticks. You need a lot of line out. So if you don't have enough weight, you can't always keep it in that sweet spot, and you want that bait to stay stuck. But you also want to have the lightest weight you can get away with, so as the fish picks and pries at it, it's not feeling that weight as much too.
Yeah, so you don't want them lifting up something heavy.
Yeah,
they're going to spit it out. But someone asked, I seen a quick question: what water temperatures do you try butterfly blades with crawlers? And that's any water temperature. Night crawlers are all the time bait, and if we had more of them, they would work in the wintertime. If you can get them, they're going to work on a buckshot rattle spoon. I don't think people use night crawlers enough. Some of the fellows I know from southeastern and southern Wisconsin bring them up when they're fishing for perch, and they always like night crawlers. And as you go to the Dakotas or down south, that's all they use. And so typically that's a great question. And then someone was mentioning pitching. I won't name the lake. Pitching jigs is happening now on the South Dakota Minnesota border for walleyes coming up, and John Gildersleeve brought that up. And there's some good waters down there, and you might see me, because as cabin fever sets in, and I think my neighbors might kill me if I ice fish one more time. So but I was going to say, I use Sunline all the time for big sturgeon. Sunline has a huge following. The bass guys use it, the walleye pros, the Bassmaster Elite, and Sunline is the best line, but their braids are really nice and soft, and I use a braided leader, but Sunline is abrasive resistant. And when sturgeon roll, small sturgeon have spikes. They'll actually poke you, but the big ones, they turn into scales. They start out like this, and then their scales go down like this, but they're like a baseball bat with old rusty nails on it. And so
bring a glove for anything under 25 inches, even probably 30 inches. They are pokey little buggers when they're
absolutely
young, those little scoots. And yeah, it's a defense mechanism. When they're young, it's used as defense. And then as they swim and grind them down with age, they don't need them anymore. So they just kind of naturally wear off. And the big ones you could hold barehanded all day. And
hey, Sam,
yep.
He just showed up. We got a special guest tonight. A really special guest. He holds high honor at Northland. He's just an awesome dude. Joel Nelson is coming up. Joel Nelson, Brooke, bring him on. He's a writer, an avid angler for both ice and open water. And Sam, he is.
We brought him on Northland, I don't know, 4, 5, or 6 years ago now. Yep. And I was really excited to have you on board.
A man of many hats, many companies. So, and I'm going to mention some of them because this guy's really got it going on. He's got the dream job. He's St. Croix Rods, Lund Boats, Mercury Motors, Otter Outdoors, as well as like a pile of other companies. And thanks for coming on, Joel.
What an intro, man! I got a lot to live up to here. We better offer some hard hitting, cutting edge type stuff after that, right?
Yeah. Well, you can see when it comes to fishing, it's like a bait shop. We almost need a buzzer here when you want to butt in. You just got to kind of start talking. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's how it is. I got some quick questions here because everyone wants to know. I'm curious, what Lund are you going to run this year and why?
It's actually sitting in my garage right here. I just got it maybe a week or two ago. It's an 1875 Pro V, and it's a boat that I have run now for, I think I've been a Lund Pro almost 10 years. If it's 9, I've run that boat 8 out of 9 years. And the other year was a 1975 Pro V. So let me rewind the whole Pro V thing. For me, Pro Vs have always had a special place. I had a year 99 or 2000 1775 Pro V SE. Great boat. Yeah, bro, right away knows the one I'm talking about. Had a Merc 150 EFI on it. Was the fastest boat on the river for a long time. I mean, that short little thing just scooted. And I just loved the thing. And I fell in love with the storage, the fishability of it. My kids, when they were really young, kind of grew up in it. And then, I started working with Lund, and the 1875 Pro V was like that model on steroids, obviously, with just the newness of everything and the upgrades. They've just gotten so much better over the years. So that 1875 Pro V, it's got a full windshield. I rig it maybe a little differently than some guys, but I'm a multi-species angler, so it's really got to do a lot of things for me. And I just don't know of many other models that have that kind of versatility. So that's why I run that one.
Oh, interesting. I was wondering, and that's a real good boat for everything. I mean, if you're going to go on big water, it's a great boat. If you're going to be, then you're probably fishing rivers a lot too, because you're near some of that great water there, the big walleye country of the locks and dams, pool 3. Pool 4.
Yeah, I need it to run on the river. It's got to be short enough and small enough to tuck into some of the smaller lakes, especially like unimproved landings and accesses. A good truck with good tires can still get you down in a gravel or dirt launch, as long as it's deep enough. I could run a roller trailer if I was getting to some really extreme shallow stuff. I don't. I kind of prefer the bunk and how it loads real nice for most of what I do. So it's kind of, for me, the perfect compromise between does some of the big water stuff fairly well, everything else light years and beyond what I needed to do. So it's just been a really Swiss Army knife of boats for me.
Well, that sounds like a great boat. I'm out on Winnie and Leech,
Right.
Lincoln Woods and stuff, and it's always windy here now. It seems we're getting some of that Dakota wind here, and so I went with the GL Glass, the great big one. But
Oh yeah.
now I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to some of my old hunts because I don't want to wreck it. You know what I mean? I really like that boat you got there, but if you could only pick one, right?
You probably have a little stump jumper way back on the back 40 that you can hook up to and get into where you need to. I'm guessing though. So
I do have one that's got some dock rashes, and you'd never know it's me. You know, it's like that song, nothing works, but there's nothing wrong with the radio.
That's
The
right.
radio works, so
Aaron
the
Tippett.
motor starts.
That's right.
But Sam, he has a question he was going to ask.
Okay, speaking of deep V's, so we launched our deep V jig a few years ago. Has the same concept as kind of as a V hull in a boat.
Yeah.
Where
There it is.
do you guys like to use both the deep V jig and then also the deep V bucktail jig?
I'll let Joel, you go with that one.
Yeah, well, so the concept behind the deep V, I really liked it when I first saw some of the initial drawings of it. That wire keeper on it, I tell you, there's a lot of jigs out there, but if you fish plastics and even if you fish live bait, that wire keeper, having that on there is such a great key part to the presentation, and then just all the quality components with it. So from the ground up, it's really well designed. But you add that deep V element. I look at hair and I think of that first thing. I think of that early in the season, been using it already February, March on the rivers, deep vertical jigging performances. Troy, good to see you too. We got all kinds of fans on here. I love it. And then I transitioned from the bucktail kind of things going vertical in the rivers to that pitching bite, which is kind of going on right now. And you can use that jig all the way into the summer. But another really cool technique and another reason I use them in rivers is that V on that jig tracks really nice. So yeah, Bro's holding it there so you can kind of see that profile. And when you look at it in the plan view, that V helps it track really nice behind the boat. So if you're the kind of person that likes dragging jigs, whether that's dragging them behind the boat under power from your trolling motor, whether it's drifting, it's a great jig to kind of keep on track and work through cover. Again, when it's tracking straight, that jig's not rolling over a lot and catching on weed stalks or other things like that, which in a river is absolutely paramount to success. And if you're dragging over clamshells, that kind of thing, it just tends to work really well through all that kind of cover and debris. So I'm a big fan of starting with hair earlier in the season, then moving on to the standard deep V jig. And I fish the smaller one with small plastics for crappie. I think there's a 16th ounce. I use it for that. It's a walleye jig. It's got a great gap on it. So I really like the size of the hook, the gap on the hook. I don't know. Bro, I'm sure you've got a million reasons why you love the thing too.
Well, I like how it flips. I use a lot of minnows up here. Whoops. And had an earthquake in Max here. But so I'll double hook a shiner on here, and that little bait keeper keeps hooked into their lower jaw.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of wreck their head if you catch a fish on them, but that keeps the bait on because I'm ripping it usually. And we're in a glacial lake kind of area here, and it's one of those deals where you gotta have a hook and a good tumble to it. And I used to take good Northland jigs and flatten them before a tournament, and their paint was so good. And there was one specific one that I would do. I'd flatten it, make a pill out of it, and the paint stayed on. So that tells you how good their paint is. And I put it in a vice grips and I tighten it. I don't have to wreck jigs anymore. I could do that. It would last, but not like these. And it was good to see Perry Good is here, and
Hey,
he
Perry.
is. I think Perry. I mean, he is a Lund guy through and through, and he's been with him. I don't know how long, a long time, and definitely a good guy to talk to. But so I like the hair jigs, and I fish the river. I've done tournaments down there, and I always tend to go to this stuff because that's kind of the rainy and the leech, cast, Bemidji stuff. And I watched a guy in a tournament throwing that, catch an 11-pounder under my motor. That's how tight it gets there sometimes, but he pitched up under my motor. Good thing he was in a different tournament. And because there's like 2 tournaments going on at the same time, I will never not be down there without a black deep V hair jig. I've never seen anything like it, but that is a fun place.
The biggest sleeper walleye color out there. One thing I think the deep V, what it helps with is that V gives you a little bit of forgiveness in your rigging. So both in the Tide model, or if you rig your plastic on a little wonky, or your live bait is always impossible to get perfectly rigged, it just gives you that little extra help to make sure that thing's tracking straight in the water. And it seems really simple, but it really has substantial benefits for that simple V design. So
well, and Bro mentioned that pill shape, and guys have been using that pill shape for a long time to kind of cut through current, right? Basically to keep down. And if there was ever a walleye sin amongst them, it's riding up and above those fish. And then you add current washing it over the top of that. It's even more paramount for that thing to try to stay glued to the bottom. So I'm a big fan of pill shape to begin with. And I think this takes pill shape and kind of ups the ante.
Well, we had a question here, Joel. Someone was asking how far off the bottom with the deep V's and the hair jigs, and I'm guessing maybe on the river, how far off the bottom would you use them?
Well, a lot of times, like for the techniques like dragging, you're actually trying to match up the perfect size jig head and the perfect speed with the current that you're faced with to keep that thing literally not constantly contacting the bottom, but I mean, you should be able to hold the rod and feel that thing ticking occasionally. So when I say near bottom, I mean darn near on it in those situations, because bro, I'm sure you could attest, there's a lot of those tournaments down there where if guys aren't getting in between those little sand crevices where those walleyes are like literally belly into them, you're just not going to get bit. So I think it's really important in those situations more than ever to stay close.
Absolutely. And here's a thing in the National Walleye Tour when I was down there, and I was fishing a break, and it was about 8 feet of water, and my boat was parked into it. And so the fish are running up that 8 foot of water break in outside of Red Wing in heavy current. So they need little current seams. I started pitching up the shore, and there was a guy fishing on shore, and he had his line casted out for carp or something. Yeah. And I pitched right up to his feet, and I got a 24-incher. So, and I pitched up there again, and I got a 19. Well, that guy reeled in his line and started just putting his rod and started dabbing. Those fish, maybe this is a secret, but you heard it here. Those fish are so close to shore, people are casting past them. They're right there. And so, I mean, that saved my hide there. And it's really interesting. And that's how it is everywhere. I noticed spot lock, kind of a Minnesota, Dakota thing. You go to Michigan and you spot lock, they're like, hey, where are you from? Because they got 3-4 mile an hour current, and any size jig is just on the surface. You're going to get down there. So it's go downstream. So you got 600 boats in 4 miles, all going downstream at 4 mile an hour. So you just got to know what you're doing before you jump in that crowd, But Sam, what do you think about? We better talk about some cranks, because these are works of art.
So we're launching the new Rumble Series crankbaits over the last couple of years. How are you guys going to utilize those around the opener? So Rumble Bugs, Rumble Shads, what are you going to have tied up?
I think my internet's a little shaky, guys. You still got me?
Yep.
Yes.
So
you're stuck with us.
I was asking you, Joel, how are you guys going to use the new Rumble Series?
Please repeat the question. I lost that. My fault.
How are you going to use the new Rumble Series over around the opener?
Well, I could start it here. Well, I'm going to have a Rumble Shiner for twitching. When you get the lakes where I'm at, the walleyes are going to be recuperating.
So Bro and I are both in the sticks. I don't know if it's my bad internet or if it's other gremlins messing with the cables or something.
Well, and you can probably
question about crankbaits, guys.
Yeah. So on the opener, I'm gonna have this tied on in the rod locker, because I can pitch it out and twitch it and kind of just hop it back. Then the walleyes are going to be laying, and they're going to see that and grab it. And also, there's another little one here. I'm really excited to try this. This is going to be my bait that I'm going to have tied on for leech or Winnie. And when I get to Cass, that's the one I'm going to use right there. Because it's clear. And if you don't think cranks work during the day on some of these clear bodies of water, you're mistaken, because there's people that's all they do. But I mean, I like pitching them because I like casting. if I put a rod in the holder, I want a pillow. I'm going to take a nap. I'm kind of laid back, but maybe not. I'm a little bit stressful, but I like to keep going. But I'm going to pitch that, and I'm going to use a 7-foot, and I like to use a St. Croix Legend Elite, and I'm going to put 12-pound Sunline on there, and I'm going to have a swivel with a little fluorocarbon leader. And this is going to be a 7-foot rod, and then you're matched for any type of wind, and pitch it out and twitch it. And you're fishing flats, you're fishing less than 10 feet of water, 6 feet of water. And surprisingly, in the opener, the fish are closer to the bottom. But most of the time, the walleyes I'm finding on our body's water now, because they're clearer than ever, they're only halfway down. They're not on the bottom. They're halfway down. So
you were mentioning casting for them, bro. One thing that makes the Rumble series unique is we use that HCM process where it's a balsa lure, but we're building it more like a plastic lure. So it has the positive attributes about the balsa, but also it has attributes like castability that the plastic lures have. So with us being able to glue those two lure halves together, it allows us to move that weight exactly where we want to. So they are one of the best casting balsa lures out there. They're a breeze to cast with spinning gear. You can even cast a lot of them on bait casting gear if you want to.
I like the colors that are on some of these. The paint jobs are amazing, but the fact that they're balsa is just amazing. And then Joel, come back whenever you get a chance. Come on back into the show. But so as we're getting closer to opener, here's some theories I have based on what I've seen, because I drilled. I got an extension on a drill, and I drilled that. I see Joel, come on in whenever you're ready. But I looked down there, and I left a hollow socket, and there was a lot of ice. Joel, can you hear us?
I got you. I have 2 teenage boys, and I guarantee they're watching fishing videos, and my wife is watching home improvement videos, and it's the whole world's been conspiring against me. So I'm glad to be back.
Well, and I wanted your take on opener crankbaits. This is kind of like going to be my Cass Lake special here, or Bemidji. And then when I'm on Winnie or Leech, I want to use this little puppy here.
Sweet.
And it's amazing with this clear water. I'm noticing fish are higher. Obviously, opener, they're going to be closer to the bottom because they're up shallow. But if they're in 10 feet of water, there's a lot of fish that are 5 feet off the bottom now. And that's not how we used to fish walleyes. But what are you going to use as far as cranks on the opener? Are you going to have any tied up?
So opener, when it comes to some of the stuff I'll be doing here, if I'm over on the river, that shad style bait, it's been such a winner for so many years. Anything shad pattern, that could be the Rumble Bee, it could be the Rumble Shad, but the Rumble Shad especially trolls so well at Red Wing out on Pepin. Not that you need to open down there because walleye season is open continuous, but the whole month of May in throughout June, it's hard to beat that. And so we'll be fishing that thing all the way through, even into the fall, and you can start using some of the larger sizes. But, bro, I totally agree with you, especially this year, even down here, that Rumble Shiner being cast up shallow, kind of a twitch and pause situation, let the fish kind of work its way to the bait. You're enticing, you're attracting, but you're trying to coax fish coming out of a lot of shallow developing weeds. So that Rumble Shiner, I think, is just perfect for that. I love fishing developing weeds. Mm-hmm. And that bait tends to, in my neck of the woods during the time of the year around opener, be just perfect for riding over the tops and letting those fish come up and grab it. It's a fun way to fish too. Here. I mean, it's just a blast in that way.
I know this is one that our viewer Dave Adams might be using. He's a fan of clear water, big walleyes, but those are great ones. And then, so as far as opener time of year, typically it's a jig and minnow bite, and hopefully we can have spot tails. Spot tails are kind of a big time bait everywhere. As you get out east, they still got tons of emeralds. I mean, and Daryl, they're going to work great for crappies. These things are fantastic. They got a really tight wobble, and they really, really go. But I want to ask Joel, you're a fan of St. Croix. I was just going to say, if you could pick or tell me, the viewers, what are your favorite two? Your panfish one and your walleye one. And I know you might not be able to pick one of each, but I mean, what would you pick for St. Croix rods?
Yeah, so when we're talking St. Croix rods, I'm losing a little bit because the video. I think my kids logged back on, so I'm trying to kick them here, whisper yelling when you're not looking. But anyways, the St. Croix rods on my end, if I'm fishing for panfish, it's really hard. I tend to look at the rods in instances of powers, lengths, and action, and then model. You can kind of, depending on the technique, choose what works great for you guys. So when it comes to panfish, that 7-foot light, extra fast length, power, and action is just a sweet spot for so many different things. Crappies, you can use it with a bobber. I'm a big fan of both the LEP, the Legend Elite Panfish. Obviously, it's the finest panfish rod ever made. It's got a price tag to reflect it, but when the bite's really tough, like if you're line watching, if you're doing stuff in wind, like slack line hits, you just catch so many more fish. And so it's hard when you hear people say, well, you can use whatever, because there are certain applications where having the right rod and better technology is going to help you catch more fish, have a better day on the water. And, I didn't hear, bro, if you talked about walleyes yet, but I start thinking about walleye rods in the same way. I can choose just about any model depending on how much I want to spend. There it is, LEP 70LXF. I love it. He's using the codes. Thank you, Alan. When it comes to walleyes, I'm a big fan of the medium 6'8" MXF or the medium light 6'10" XF. So the ML or the M, it depends on the size of the jigs that I'm throwing, and I fish a lot of jigs. If I'm fishing lighter stuff, the medium light. If you're fishing heavier stuff, the medium. And then the length is more of a function of pitching. If you're vertical jigging, I like something a little bit shorter, but that extra fast action, there's just nothing like it for jig fishing, especially. So again, when you start talking about, well, you could say this is personal preference or not. For me, an extra fast action for jig fishing is not personal preference. It's a thing that helps me catch more fish.
Here's a Legend
I feel the
panfish
bites
here.
better. Boom, there it is. Yeah.
That's split grip.
So Legend panfish.
Look at that.
Perfect.
And I got my
I like the
this is all
redesign
set up for perch.
No.
Someone was asking
really?
if they make that for crappies. That one's all set for perch. I'm all ready to go after ice out perch.
And you only got about 2 months or what?
Well, I might have to drive south to get to some open water when opener comes, but go ahead.
Say let's hear about some of your rods. What are you going to have in your rod locker come opener?
It's, if I look at the wind, on the National Weather Service and everything, there's always like that flag that tells you it's going to be windy. There's flags up and down the thing. It's just windy up here. And someone asked, is it always windy like this? I'm like, is it windy where you live? It's windy everywhere. And so I'm going to definitely have some 6-footers because the shorter rods draw less wind. A 6-foot Legend Elite, Legend Tournament, anything in that is good to have in the rod locker. That shorter rod negates the wind. And I'm telling you, I've had clients, even co-anglers in tournaments, that we've been in tough bites. That makes a big difference because our walleyes might be spawning on the opener. I mean, it's one of those years, but I've talked to some DNR guys, and these years actually make more fish. I mean, if you have a late spawn, sometimes it's fantastic for hatching. So all for the greater good. I didn't have to put wader boots to pull my dock out last fall because the tires are out. And I'm telling you, so it's nice to have water under a dock. So I'm not suffering. This winter is getting old, but we don't have these very often. Now, if it happens next year, then I'm going to spin the planet and look and throw a dart at the map on somewhere that's warmer. But I love my ice fishing. But great
Northland
questions.
tackle might become Southland tackle.
Yeah, you're going to be a warm climate tackle.
Yep.
That was a great picture that Dave had there of a giant walleye. And but so before we go on, Sam, we got some great prizes of stuff we're talking about here. How can people win?
Yeah. So, and actually, we got the Rumble Shad giveaway tonight. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show. You'll get those 5 Rumble Shads, as well as the Northland hat and the Bro Roadshow mug. Giveaway coming in at 70, 80, 90 bucks. It's a pretty heavy giveaway there. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show. I saw a question earlier too about dive depths on the Rumble Shads. The size 5 goes 5 to 12 feet. The size 7 goes 8 to 16, and the 8 goes 8 to 14. And now the Rumble Series baits are also on the Precision Trolling app. If you want,
that's fantastic. I
really
love that. And I was going to tell people, if you're out fishing, whether it's springtime or whatever, if you're fishing panfish, I do use a camera, and I always have this lined up. If I'm fishing lakes back in the woods, I got my AquaView on me like this, and I just got my bucket of rods. So don't forget to bring your AquaView when you go out there. Outside of that, I want to go into more about the St. Croix rod stuff. Now, Joel, when you're fishing panfish in the spring, do you ever have to go out deep for them, or are they always up shallow?
Oh man, yeah. Deep is the name of the game. And like right now we've got a little bit of open water here, actually on most of the lakes, my area and south. And it's frustrating for a lot of anglers because they dump the boat in the water and they think spring, and they've heard about spring bites, and they go up shallow and they look for developing weeds or north bays and warming rocks and all that stuff. And there's no fish there yet. They're not. In fact, was just out taking the boat for a quick little test run, and those crappies are right where we left them ice fishing. Like, they literally have not moved an inch. If you wanted to go right now and ice fish in open water, like literally take the short sticks, dump a flasher over the side and watch your bait go down and fish come up to it, just like ice fishing style, that's how you would catch them right now. So, and with the spring, we're talking about Mother Nature having fits. So we'll eventually see fish, and we already are. I mean, some of those fish were kind of splaying a little bit towards the bottleneck of the basin. They're going to work their way up to some of these shallow flats, but you're going to get these cold days and cold fronts that come in, and those fish will kind of work back towards the basin. And then you'll get some warmer temps over a couple, 3 days, and they'll start to push and work their way up. And it's almost yo-yo like. And I really like a general warming trend that stays for a week and a half to 2 weeks, because then you just get that natural progression, and fish slowly but surely make their way up. You're fishing shallow, but there's more fish behind them coming on in, especially as the afternoon wears on. It's just a great scenario. So yeah, the answer is definitely deeper at first and then shallower as we go. Everybody's like, well, the ice is off. And it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, it's like taking an ice bath back in high school football, right? I mean, the drink is still cold. The ice just melted, man. You got to give them some time to let those water temps climb.
Well, and it's funny, this topic, I kind of threw it in there because I figured you're going to be in the know. And my in-laws live on Leech Lake, and I watch people coming in over and over, and the crappies are pretty vulnerable. And I see boat after boat, and they're tricked out. They're walleye boats.
Yeah.
But they're there to fish crappies. And over and over and over, everybody's doing the same thing. And then they bomb and leave. And then I'm watching out in the water in the ice fishing stuff and wondering if they're going to spot them, because there's like 2,000 fish here and there once in a while. And I'm watching, and no, they keep going. And you can watch over 100 boats, and then there's 100 boats working these areas over and over. And if they actually crack them, there ain't gonna be nothing left in like one day. But it's just amazing. People forget that just because their boat's in and it's warm, that they're going to be up on the bank.
Right.
It takes, when they always say when the lilacs are blooming, the big swamp pumper frogs are going, and then unilaterally have 55-degree and up water. Outside of that, someone was asking about the Winnie area. I'm not going to pick on one specific lake or anything, but in June, it's lights out in for anywhere you want to go in the whole area, and that's when they're going to start spawning anyway. Depending, well, this year we don't know. That's a 60-degree temperature, but before that, They don't spawn in the spring. I keep telling people, no, they're feeding. They're looking for warm water. Everything that's small, every little minnow is up in that warm water, and it's just boiling with minnows, and the crappies are just feasting. And even midge flies come out on the warm, sunny days when the water's in the 50s. So everything's up in the shallows when the weather's good. But nature knows. As the deer get squirrely and they jump in front of your car, especially when the fronts are coming through, there's a reset button. A big, heavy cold front rolls in, go back to the ice fishing spots. And if they're not there, they're somewhere in between in that no man's land and found a rock, a tree, but that kind of stuff. So that's a great thing. And now, so coming up this opener, Sam, you're going to be fishing somewhere really good. What are you going to do? And then I'm going to ask Joel.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be pitching jigs and hopefully shiners if we can get some around the Bemidji area lakes. It's always a blast, so I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a phenomenal, this late ice is going to provide a long, phenomenal jig bite. So it's not just going to be those first few weeks; it's going to last a while. So as long as we can get some shiners, or even, I think once the water warms up, I'm going to be experimenting more with plastics around here as well. But yeah, jig and minnow for sure around the Bemidji area on some of the bigger lakes.
So Joel, do you for opener day? Do you fish locally around the Twin Cities, or do you head north, or what do you do?
It's a great question, and I answered honestly in that opener for me being 25 minutes from Red Wing has always been it's been somewhat of a non-event. But that said, I've got a lot of buddies up north where this thing is celebrated, and I totally get the tradition, the culture, the hey, go up if you can brave getting the dock in, do it, at the cabin and go out and fish maybe for crappies leading up to opener, and then fish for walleyes at midnight or morning of, and then end up maybe fishing crappies again if it's a tough bite. But for me down south, to be honest, a lot of times I let some of the pressure of opening day clear out, and I'll come back on a Monday and just fish throughout the week and enjoy it. I don't make a big deal out of it unless I'm doing it with some buddies, and then we celebrate that culture. We have a fish fry. We fish crappies. We fish walleyes, and I love it all. So it just this year I don't have any firm plans, but I've also been known to try and shoot a turkey when everybody else is messing around with their boat, and they leave the woods to me at least for a weekend. So it's wide open. We'll see.
Are they going to be
too much to
tomorrow
do
morning, Joel?
What was that, Sam?
Are they going to be gobbling in Bemidji tomorrow morning with this weather we got?
Hell no. If I was a turkey, I wouldn't gobble unless I had to, the way as cold as it's been.
I know.
I've seen them along the roads as I'm driving around the area, and the turkeys look crabby too.
Yeah,
so I don't dare stop. They might peck my eyes out.
It's brutal, man. I got I have a buddy that he and his two boys, they both took turkeys here this last weekend. They didn't hear anything for gobbles. They kind of deer hunted these turkeys, and I love to hear them gobble, man. It's just a great time. So I'm an equal opportunity sportsman, but I wait to make my play when the getting's good, right?
Well, and then Sam
looking for tracks, not listening for gobbles, and I
there's
didn't
one
find
more.
any, so we're really out of luck.
Oh, geez.
Could you tell the viewers? I mean, it's coming up very, very soon, but we'll get it in one more time. Tell the viewers how they can win, and then that giant prize package I seen when I stopped at Northland that covered a whole table. Tell them about that too.
Yep. So we got the prize pack for the Roadshow here, which is the 5 Rumble Shad baits, the hat, and the Bro Roadshow mug. Like, comment, and share the show, and you'll be entered to win that. And then also, if you go to www.northlandtackle.com, we have a big $500 walleye opener sweepstakes. Comes with a bunch of jigs, bunch of hard baits, some other things, bobbers, whatnot, a few clothing items. So you can go onto our website and click to enter that as well.
And that's Joel on that.
Yeah, looking good in his Lund right there on that.
Hey, Joel, that's you and your Lund right there. And do you have all that tackle on board right there?
I do, but I also saw that they put the tackle over the top of whatever fish I was netting at the time. They did wanted to make me feel better. It's probably a small one, so it was an eater day, we'll call that. But hey, Sam, where can I get that camo hat? Can I buy that camo hat now? Is that available?
Yep, it's available on the website. And
we're partial, bro, you and I, to camo hats. So
I like it. See,
I need to get you one. You can go shoot a turkey with it.
Yeah, right. I love it. It's a dual threat.
well, and one of the things I wanted to bring in too, right now, there's a lot of people probably fishing the rivers down in your neck of the woods, and like Detroit River is going to be busy no matter what because the thing just loaded up. The tournament was there and it was terrible.
Yeah.
Now it's just full of fish, and isn't that how it works? And
That is
everybody on Erie
Yeah.
is just cracking fish all day long, and they're all big. There's no eaters out there. They're all big ones, but so on the Mississippi, there's monsters there. That's why they bring tournaments there, and some of the biggest weigh-ins are on the Mississippi River. But they're also catching sauger. Are the sauger numbers doing okay down there?
Yeah, there's always decent sauger in the river. Now, we were spoiled here. A lot of people say it's only a few years ago, but probably it's closer to 10, 15 years ago. And you probably remember, bro, where you could go down below the dam there and fish within 2 miles of it and catch some great big sauger, most of them over 20 inches, some of them approaching 24 or bigger. So massive sauger. I'd say it's off a little bit from what it was, but I definitely catch them in the springtime. The summer crankbait runs, a lot of times you'll get into a good patch of sauger. My son got like a 23-incher last year. That was good. So it's always fun to see those, and always a neat thing to find. Always a cool surprise to get sauger and saugeye when you're down there.
Yeah, they're really cool fish, and I mean, compared to like Lake of the Woods, I don't know, them saugers are like super old, and they don't get quite that big,
Right.
so they must grow really fast on Pepin. But I've seen them, pushing 23, 24 inches down there, but that's going back in my old tournament days. And now, I suppose, what would be a big sauger there now, or what's average?
Average, if you're pushing 20 inches, that's a great sauger. Like I said, my son got a 23-incher last year. That was really, really big. And and they're eating that shad, so they can get a little bit bigger, I think. And the ones that some of the smaller ones we do end up cleaning, they're thick and fatty with those oily shad,
Yeah, and it's Sam. You were going to ask us some pan questions here.
Yeah, so Joel, you have, I don't think a lot of people know this, but you have a pretty extensive background in mapping. And I think one thing a lot of people do is they don't get their boat on the water till that opening day. So how can people utilize mapping, the mapping technology we have today, to find new spots on opener, dial in spots on spots? What are some things they should be looking for?
Well, I'm a big fan of really wringing the rag dry when it comes to mapping. I'm a map nerd from way back in the day. I'm the kind of guy where you could just kind of sit there and lock into the thing and make big dreams and plans to hike in here and check that out and all this. And data is data. And a lot of times the more of it, as long as it's quality data, you're going to learn more. You're going to come in better prepared. You're going to have a better idea of what to do, like you're talking about. So, that Lake Master chip, I don't care if it's Lake Master, Navionics, whatever you're using, good background mapping is key and essential to helping pick out some of this stuff. And, that Lake Master, that HD stuff, the high quality 1 foot contours, so many times I've gone to different lakes with a little bit of planning and looked at a contour and said, that thing jogs a little funny. It just doesn't look like it looks like a flat. There's a couple lines, but one of the contours has kind of an abrupt squiggle to it, right? And I go out there later, and this has happened to me multiple times. I'll go out later, and it's like a clam bed, something subdued, something small, a hard bottom spot where everything surrounding is soft bottom. I'll drop a camera on it, and it's full of crayfish or baits. And sometimes those little cues and clues you get while just sitting in the garage in the boat, zooming in and playing around. Sometimes I just drop a waypoint on it and say, you know what, I'm going to check this thing out later. And that's really helped me, but so has looking at aerial photography. And the cool part about like Google Earth or Google Earth Pro is you can look at multiple years photography. And if you're fishing shallow, a lot of times water levels have receded in some years. You can actually get GPS coordinates, take that out to your mapping, out to your fish finder, dump those coordinates in, and like boundary waters or any of the northern lakes that are really clear.
See the reefs, and
you can see reefs 20 feet down, and
weed beds. Yep.
You go up there in some of these places that don't have good maps. You can make your own maps with a lot of the data and the software out there now, but man, if you can go up there with an understanding where an unknown reef is, man, it's like you're a local all of a sudden. You're just really
It
nerdy.
makes a big difference. And that's when we do tournaments on big water, Green Bay, Erie, we're looking for just subtle little rises and falls. And we're doing it at high speed. And with my one boat network, my Humminbirds and everything, I got all tweaked together. And I have my high speed transducer. That is so important to make sure you got that mounted right, because I can't tell you how many times I have found schools of fish on big waters like Leech Lake, Lake of the Woods. Lake of the Woods, it's just like Erie. Drive around at 28 to 33 miles an hour, and you see spikes because you're going through real fast. And when you slow down, they turn into arcs. And then, you can put your we used to just troll through them. Now there's some guys going up there and they're forward viewing with their Mega Live. They find the fish, go back, and they're not trolling through them. Now they're pitching to them. And so pitching has become such a huge deal on big bodies of water. I've been in the National Walleye Tour for a while. It's because I've been guiding. And when I was in it, it was a troll-a-thon. And now it just turned into pitching. So it hasn't been around that many years. But between having a good map and finding those spots, those micro spots, turning on them, and it's amazing. And Erie was the one tough lake to try to get to catch fish on pitching. They used to pitch weighted spinners and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I actually went out there with Heather a couple of years ago, and we only pitched. We didn't troll, and we went from reef to reef to reef. And there's busy reefs full of fish where there's charter boats, but we caught fish everywhere in a smelt minnow, in a sunrise thumperhead with the little spinner in the back. So big plastic, but you had to put a little chunky crawler in that thing. And every reef we went to, we caught walleyes. But here's the thing. They were 17 to 23 inches, and I think we had one 27-incher. But every spot had fish. The big ones were trolling. So you see guys out there off the reef trolling in no man's land, and their board's going back, and they got a 28, 29-incher. But pitching seems to be the new thing. And having a good map is huge. But once you have it, high-speed running is super important to find fish on the fly, and even if you're on vacation. But no, all great information.
Joel's little comment about little things in the map. That's the biggest thing I've seen fishing with all of you pros. I think we talk about contour lines and whatnot. Most people go to the biggest, steepest point on the lake. But A, that's where everyone goes. And
right.
B, some of the best spots are those little gradual points where those contour lines are way far apart, but they're still coming out. Because a lot of times that means it's, rock reef scattered along that. So those little things in the map that don't look big can often be the best spots.
Joel gave a great tip there when he talked about that. Watch your maps closely on your Lake Master. Little squiggles are super, super good spots. And pay attention to your side imaging and all that stuff. Great. That was a super good tip you threw to people. And
the asterisks mean rocks. Sam was on a trip where I found a rock, and it did not have an asterisk by it. We were on the Canadian side of Lake of the Woods, and I left a beautiful $500 stainless prop on the top of this spire. And one of the camera guys, Nick Gall, who is like part Aquaman frog guy, jumped in and found a way to grab my prop and hand it up to me. But man,
which we found it on side imaging first too.
He did side image most of my motor.
Oh my gosh! So did you wreck the lower unit?
Oh yeah, that required a tow back. That was not pretty. Driving too fast for conditions, and then also just not staring at my map at the right scale for as fast as I was going. And that's, mapping makes a huge difference when you're talking about navigational safety. And if you're new to this body of water, any of these bodies of water, like, mapping is just so crucial in so many different ways.
Yep. And like they say, that was kind of a tricky spot where it was kind of two channels and we thought we were in the one and it turned out we were in the other, and it happened that quick.
And
I got to hear more about this. We got to have him back. We better pick a winner, because these people earned it. Talking shop here in the bait shop right now, and I appreciate Joel coming on, but let's pick a winner.
Yep, we got the winner picked out. It is going to be Jason Fritz for tonight. So
All
congratulations.
right, congratulations, Jason Fritz.
We'll reach out to you and get your contact information and get you that awesome Northland prize pack. And don't forget to go on northlandtackle.com and enter to win that giant $500 prize pack we have running for the walleye opener. So make sure.
And I want to thank Joel for coming on the show tonight. And everybody, remember, we're on next Monday. We're on Mondays for a little while now, just trying to work the schedule out. And thank you for watching us. And special thanks. Thank you, Sam and Brooke, our producer. We'll catch you next Monday. And thanks a lot, Joel. Good luck fishing.
You too. Thanks, guys.